You're listening to another episode of Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. This is the place where you're entitled to Brad's opinion. And now for your host, Brad Allard.
He practices that too. Yeah, he looks in the mirror and does, while he's primping and practices that.
Just like Zac Efron.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, you want me to say it again on the air just so you can make a clip of it?
Sure.
We were talking about High School Musical, and I said Zac Efron is a hunk. But anyway, we have Jen Basham here today. You got it? Okay. Jen Basham's here from the Parks and Rec, and we're going to talk about the carnival we just had and how it took about, a day to put it together.
Yeah, day and a half.
Yeah, so maybe a couple phone calls, boom, there it was. Also some events coming up this summer, and summer's a very busy time for y'all, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do y'all put on the hot sounds? Is that what
We do.
Okay,
We
so
do
that's
hot
part of your portfolio, so to speak. Good grief. So when do you take a break? Wintertime?
Like New Year's Day.
New Year's Day.
Just the one.
Just the one. Okay, well, okay. You working Christmas. See, that's what we get, the dedicated public servants that we deserve, or something like that. Well, I'm going to run through the commercials real quick because there's a couple of events in particular I want to talk about. But anyway, first we have CrossFit Burleson, and we had the two new owners on 2 days ago. Lex Curtis and Bailey Smith, and it was a great show. So if you're looking at what's going on with this CrossFit Burleson, a lot of it's going to be very familiar, but they're going to have a few changes over the course of the next few months. So check them out. And also the show is on the podcast, so check them out. It was a really good show. They seem to be very enthusiastic about what they're doing. Speaking of enthusiastic, here's Shandy Stogg's deal. Like I've been saying over and over again, she's helping us sell our daughter's house, and it's really good to see her up close, and we get timely information. We don't spend any time in the dark wondering what's going on. It's a good thing. So thank you, Shandy, for what you do. I'm going to have her on, I believe, in about 3 weeks. We're going to talk about interest rates and whatnot, because that's throwing things out of whack. Also, Otto, just there today at our place, having breakfast with my Sunday school men. We tried to solve all the problems of the world. We came up woefully short, but not the meal and not the service. It was on point as always. I'm sure you've been there before.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Ryan, Otto's son, runs it really. Otto is, I kid about him being like this celebrity that walks through the restaurant waving his hand. Yes, Yeah. And of course, they have the new one in Cleburne coming up. It's been open for about 2 months, and it's already, well established. So there you are. And speaking of well established, Wild Cigar and Culture, get yourself a smoke. You smoke cigars, right? No,
not really.
But you probably know people that do, and this is where you send them to go get their cigars. And also has a nice bar, good drinks, and good atmosphere to do business in. They have a conference room and all that. So a Wild Cigar over at the Standard. Thank you, Chris. Also, we have coming out. Well, it's already out. Is the Tiffany Nico's Local Life. It's on the wellness issue, and it's already in everybody's mailbox. Over 30,000 mailboxes, so it gets quite a bit of reach. And then they also do social media work. And so if you wanted to, up your game a little bit, you can talk to her about that, because they get around 25,000 hits on their social media. So she got it covered, Yeah. So contact Tiffany. And I've been trying to get her on the show, but she's spread too thin. She also has a party in the pavilion 4th of July. So check out their website and check out the QR code, and it'll give you all the information you need. And speaking of which, Southern Gem, fine jewelry and gemstones. Give it some time. 10 days from now, I believe they'll be downstairs. You know all that story? Oh, They're on the 3rd floor, and they've been trying to get down. They expanded down to the 1st floor. And every conceivable delay has happened. They wanted to be downstairs like 3 months ago, but this is delayed, or this contract had an issue, or the weather, or, is some issue. So poor Gayla was trying to get all that together, but I think they're going to start in about 10 days. I think they're going to have it fully operational. Also, thank you to Old Pro Roofing, John Williams, 817-734-2756. Have him check your roof out. I saw him yesterday at the BNI meeting. He's checking out a lot of roofs, and even though we haven't had that kind of weather, you don't want to find out afterwards that you had problems with your roof. Also, he'll tell you that if you have a situation where you have some damage and you don't report it within a year, insurance companies get awfully, awfully sticky about replacing it. Unless you have Texas Farm Bureau. See how that segues?
That was good.
Yeah, Texas Farm Bureau, Melissa Harmon, 682-804-0534. She's also helping us with our insurance. We're trying to give my daughter some decent car insurance, it's not easy. I mean, it's insurance is it makes my brain hurt, and so you need somebody that's going to help you walk through all of it. So call her at 682-804-0534. And if you do have some sort of water or fire damage, you can call Lisa Moore Smith over at Stop Restoration. They get it right the first time. See, they're also being on they got us well trained to recite their slogan. But anyway, they could do all sorts of things: environmental hazards, restoration. If you had a fire problem, and it doesn't necessarily mean like total devastation. If you have a fire in the kitchen, you're still going to have damage, and you're going to have smoke damage, and maybe water damage for putting it out. And so you need somebody like that to restore it back to as close to original as possible. So, as far as other things going on, did you? We had that couple of clips I sent you. Oh yeah, Burleson Buzz. This is one of them. This is a new blog coming out. It's about a month old or less. A young man said he's trying to replace the Burleson Star, in effect, and have like a news magazine, like not just what I do, but even though there's some of that, it's more like report on the city council meeting or whatever else going on. So Cody O'Brien, give him a holler if you want to see what it's all about. Also, this is right up your alley, kind of segues Juneteenth.
Yeah.
This is one of your presentations, right? The Juneteenth coming up on June 17th. I have to say, for an old-time Burleson hand like that, this is a welcome addition.
Thank you.
It really is. I've been here 30-something years, and I've seen the community vastly change in terms of the acceptance of this kind of activity, a festival. So tell us what's going to happen here on the Juneteenth. It's at the Plaza, 7:30 to 9. So what's going to be there?
So it's exactly as it says, art, food, and music. But the big thing behind all of our cultural heritage events, we did Hispanic Heritage this month. We're doing, or last month.
Cinco de Mayo, right?
Yeah. Well, we did the whole month, but yeah.
Okay.
But we celebrate all these different events, but the big push internally was like, man, we're really not celebrating heritage very well. So even when we did like Mardi Gras, one of the big things is educating people about the history. So what is Juneteenth? What's the history behind it? We try to do, some type of performance or anything that just celebrates the true meaning behind it. We'll do a proclamation that evening with council. So they'll be out there to make it officially, Juneteenth. We won't do it because our council meeting is actually on the 20th. So we'll do it at the actual event. It's from 7:30 to 9. All of our events, we try to make them free admittance so you can spend or not spend, just come out and enjoy. We'll have live music. We'll have food. We'll have art. It should be a great time.
I really think that these things that you're putting on the plaza are going to take off quite a bit when those two big restaurants, Haim and
absolutely,
Rizzu's open
we're
up.
excited.
Yeah, we already got some decent restaurants. One of my very favorites is Fresco's, but and that pizza joint, I really like Moon Tower. But as far as when those open up and then being directly across, and and they're gonna have like patio seating up, or like on the third floor or something like that, on the roof. It's going to be really nice. And so I'm really glad we're doing this. So this is the first one, I believe, isn't it? Okay.
Yes, this is our first year.
Well, because, when I came here in I started teaching in 1988 and moved here in 91. And you got all our homework. What is this you're putting on the screen here? What was that?
Wrong button.
Wrong button. Okay. Anyway, back to the matter at hand. It's like, but we were fairly singly demographic white, right? Now we're much more diverse, and I'm glad that we embrace that and celebrate the diversity of this town. And it's just funny to me. It's like, when it comes to Cinco de Mayo, everybody, is like St. Patrick's Day, and everybody's Hispanic on Cinco de Mayo because they want to drink beer. And the thing about St. Patrick's, they want to do the same. Yeah, I'm Irish somewhere, and because they want to drink beer. But anyway, we don't sell beer though.
No, we don't. But we, that's the blessing of it being down in the plaza is that people can bring their own, or, you can still do the walking license. Like when we did Honey Tour, Lone Star was available to do a beer garden. So if that's people's lane and they want to do it, then the city stays out of it, but it's still an option. So
well, that plaza I think has done more to bring the community together than anything else, because it's just. We had Old Town, but we didn't have a central meeting point as much. And, I've had several members of the council here the last 18 months. And one thing I keep bringing back is we need like a convention type center. Okay. And I bet y'all could put that to use. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
They're talking about, and I've heard this for a while. They had a plan that they finalized, so to speak, around 2019, but it hasn't really taken off yet. And COVID, money, the whole, usual reasons. But what I understand is they may end up, partnering with the hotel and trying to have some sort of space like that. And y'all definitely could use it.
Absolutely. I know, from the Parks and Rec's perspective that they had started on Hidden Creek corridor realignment and how that would impact the golf course and the softball complex and some things like that. And that's been kind of press pause for a while, but I believe Alex is bringing that back in July. Alex, our economic development director. And so council will be able to give us some better direction then and see which way we're going to go.
Well, yeah. And we have a tentative date in July. He said after July, I wanted him on soon, but he said after that, about mid-July, I would have some real news. Maybe that's what he's talking about. Of course, you can't get anything out of Alex. It's like, give me a break here, dude. We're come on. We all want to know what's going on, the inner scoop, but he doesn't give it up, and so it's all right. I'm trying to get.
You didn't want to jinx it.
Well, that's a good way of doing it too. You don't want to jinx it because you end up talking about it and then it didn't happen, and you have to explain why it's not happening. Now, one of the things that we did talk about, and I've talked about this with several members of the council, is the softball fields. I know the plan is to sell them, right? If the people say yes.
Yeah, so it's dedicated parkland. Even if it's not, it's been used as a park use. So we would go to the voters. One of the things that we are looking at that I do believe is available is that we acquired property to do a community park. And so one of the options would be to relocate those fields to that new park once it was built. But the goal is never to get rid of Hidden Creek. It's just to move it somewhere else and give us some new fields, because those fields are older and they need some love. And so we know they're beloved by the community. We'll put them somewhere and we'll do them bigger and better.
Well, it's true. I played on the softball fields, and I've seen them lately, and they're in needed repair or replacement. And I think replacement's a better option because that land's pretty valuable. I feel pretty confident that if you put it up to a vote, that's what's going to happen, is they'll approve that sale, as long as we already have something else in its place. But the thing about it, what I've seen in all the 30 years I've been here, it just. We had a rec center, but it was, a gym and a couple of dance rooms for little girls, whatever, in the pool. Now you got the brick, and now you got Chisenhall, and all this really, these nice parks, these little micro parks, and some bigger ones. Back then, there was Warren Park, and that was it, and rusty old equipment, and that was about it. It just is funny, Taylor. I'm looking at what's going on what you sent to me. It's the CrossFit one. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. It's my fault. I hit the wrong button. That's just I'm not on my game today. All right. So anyway.
Zac Efron talk.
Yeah. See what you did, dadgummit. Yeah.
Got him again.
Yeah. I know. I'm going to get this. So tell us all about what's going on with the softball park as much as you can.
Well, there's really no traction other than we knew before we ever asked anybody if they were comfortable with us moving it, that we needed to have a location selected. And so, part of buying that community park property was to say this could be a potential home. But that goes along with Alex and what he's presenting next month. So once council gives us direction there, then we'll be able to move forward on the community park and the design for that. Because the property that was acquired is adjacent to some other stuff that the city owns. And so bigger picture, it's not just community park. It's got some other city options and build out there. And so I'm just a piece of that pie.
Yeah, but I would imagine you have a great deal to say about it, don't you? I mean, you're ahead.
I'm excited about it. I think, one of the things that Burleson has done a great job of is, Chisenhall is stunning and it's beautiful and it continues to expand as it goes back towards, the mountain bike trails and Bailey Lake. And
that's really nice too. I really like what y'all did around Bailey Lake because it's very scenic for one thing, but also it's what I like about what y'all do is you take property that really doesn't have the kind of commercial value that maybe others do, and you make something useful out of it. That's what I really like, because that Bailey Lake was just a pond, and now it's a place to go.
Yeah,
and you can do golf and whatever else.
Disc golf,
yeah. But prior to that, it was just a swamp, and that's so. I'm glad y'all reclaim land that may not have other uses, and you make a use out of them.
Yeah, and so we have that complex. We just redid Bartlett. We're wrapping it up right now. So the soccer complex outside the Brick. But one of the things that we're really kind of lacking is like you said, we've got Warren Park, but it's rather small when you think of the term community park. We're trying to say we've got 50,000 residents, and if they were all to go to one park, what park would we send them to? And currently we wouldn't. We would, Chisenhall's our largest park, but it's 15 softball fields and some football fields, and so we don't have that fully comprehensive activated space, and so that's the goal with a community park. But one of the other big ones we're working on right now, we just took it to council to get some feedback on the Shannon Creek, which is behind the Shannon Creek neighborhood, in between that and the Reverie off of Candler. And that's going to be totally different than anything else in our system because it's supposed to stay natural. Even the development that we're doing within it is all going to be with that top of mind of using natural elements and natural woods and kind of the things that already exist there. Everything in the design is to help with the drainage because, like you said, we take something that everyone else looks at and says, this is a swamp or this is, what are you going to do with that? Make it a landfill.
Yeah, right.
And we're like, no, we can make it beautiful. And so Shannon Creek is kind of one of those. It was clear cut, and so now, and it's got a ton of drainage issues, and we're going to take that and put in some natural trails. We're going to put in a pond, a natural play area using natural materials versus a big metal playground, and so it'll be different than anything else in our system. And so that's kind of been my goal since I started about 3 years ago is trying to well-round our system because you're right. We have, we were counting yesterday trying to update our park inventory at 27 parks, including all these little bitty guys, but we don't have a big gathering space. Even the plaza, it can't hold everyone. And so what space are we going to create where everyone could go and gather? And the community park, that's the goal.
That's what we've been needing for a while. And I could see that pretty easily over at Hidden Creek. But, I don't obviously have all the details of all the plans and whatever else. But what I've noticed also, just as you drive around town, it seems like, okay, we got like a half acre here that's doing nothing. And we put a park on it. And like yesterday I was going through the parking lot between Mambo's and Old South.
Oh, yeah, Clark Park.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is. Like, just to it's like these little pop-up parks here. And it's like, this is really a good thing for a community because, it's not just for the kids to play on, but you can take walks and all this other stuff, and it's just not a blank piece of land or turns into patch of weeds or something like that. It's actually done something useful, and I think that's fantastic. There's another one. You probably know all the parks by name, but it's.
You say it, I'll try to guess the name.
Well, it's over in an older part of town, like near right off of Renfro. Cindy Park. Yeah. Yep. See, there you go. Good grief, but. But still, I think that's a pretty good sign of having an active town. How is that splash park working for you?
Splash Pad is popping. So we just, we opened it for the full season starting Memorial Day. We opened it for weekends prior to that, which we just call like our warm-up sessions. We're working through kinks, getting the pumps going, making sure everything's working. And kids aren't out of school yet, so it doesn't make sense. But now we're fully open, and it is hopping. But one of the things that people had been asking for years, and I'm not sure why it didn't happen, but it didn't. And so this year, they were like, can you add some shade to the outdoor pool? We see the shade right there next to us at the splash pad, but we're at the outdoor pool and we're melting over here. And so that was one of the things we were able to do this winter was we, added some sun deck and some shade. So, kids run back and forth. So the splash pad's free. Anybody can go to it, but you can go to the outdoor pool for like $4. And so you can run back and forth and, jump off the diving board, or you can go to the splash pad as a little. And so it's kind of created like a full life cycle that expands the age of both spaces.
Well, I haven't been to the pool in a long, long time. So for those like me that need directions, where exactly is the splash pad and the pool and whatnot?
Sure. So if you're on Summercrest and you're coming to the Brick, it's behind the Brick. So if you were going to come off of 174, you would see the splash pad and the outdoor pool before you got to the Brick. Okay.
Now I know. But I mean, my kids are well grown, but when they were a little bitty, we'd take them to the pool. And then my nephews lived over in Hearst, and they had one of these community splash parks as well. I thought, man, we need this in Burleson.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great
that was
amenity.
About 15 years ago, and now I'm glad we caught up with that because one of the things I've talked about with a lot of people is just how much more availability there is to do in Burleson. Back in my day, we drove to Hearst because we didn't have anything, or, we had to go to Fort Worth for a decent restaurant or whatever. Now we got all that here. And I think it's really grown in, synergy type way,
Absolutely.
Momentum maybe. As far as this carnival, let's talk about that, because I thought that was one of the most successful things I've seen. And I've heard nothing but raves.
Good.
People like in my church and people in the neighborhood, just like they said that's one of the best things Burleson's ever put on. I hope to do it again.
That's our goal.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But see, it's like now you've done it.
Yeah.
And now you set this standard. But tell us a little bit about the background of that. I know there had to be months in the planning.
Yes. Well, so it was kind of like this beautiful kinship between us and the chamber. So internally, we do a strategic planning meeting. That's boring. You don't care about that. But, every year we say, gosh, where are we falling short? Where are we not hitting? And kind of similar to the Juneteenth thing, we were like, we don't have like an event, a festival that's like, why would people outside of Burleson ever come to Burleson? Or what do people in Burleson tell their friends about? Like, oh man, we do this festival every year. It's so cool. And I was like, what do we have? And we were trying to think like, what is Burleson's heritage? How do we do that? And, we never really got anywhere. People had said honey. People had said, well, there's the rail cars in Old Town. And I was like, but were we like a big station for that? And so it was just like kind of lost. We could never get any traction. And then Gabrina with the chamber said, hey, we're bringing Honey Tour back next year. We'd love to talk to you guys because we want to do something a little different.
Well, Gabrina was on Monday.
Yeah.
And she talked about their end of the deal.
Yeah.
She was highly complimentary of y'all.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so she said, we want to do the bike ride, but we don't really want to do the other part. Do you guys? And we were like, well, that's kind of perfect because we want to do our part, but we don't want to do the bike ride. So, like I said, beautiful kind of kismet. It worked out perfectly. And our team, it took them over a year, and it took a lot of months of standing in the middle of the street in Old Town going, can I put a Ferris wheel here? And if I shut down this street, who does it impact? And if I do this, where do people park? And who do I need to partner with? And, the farmers market happened smack dab in the middle of our event. And how do we load their vendors out and load our vendors in? And, I can't really take any credit. Jessica Martinez is over that special events division, and you got the right people in the right place, and they work their tails off to make that happen. Elizabeth Davison, she's over special events, and so she worked with all the sponsors and the vendors and the musicians and the entertainment. And then, they met with every single Old Town business owner to make sure that they were comfortable. We fielded a lot of questions week of on parking. People just didn't understand because it was new. We shut off all these streets in the middle of Old Town. How does that work? But the Baptist Church worked with us. They gave us their vehicles for us to use as shuttles.
That's my church, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, we really felt fortunate. We felt like the community really got behind it. And so that's why it was so successful, because everybody was on board and they were a willing partner. And so we were able to just serve everyone that wanted to come from in town and everyone that brought their friends. I had multiple friends that were like, hey, we're back at the carnival. I was like, you were just there yesterday. And they're like, yeah, and we're going back tomorrow. And so we were like, okay, that's successful. That means we're doing what we're supposed to. And so, as the rest of that development occurs, and, the Baptist Church bought our annex building. And so we'll have additional parking that way. And so we're like, we're excited to see how that footprint can shift and grow, and we can get bigger rides and bigger amenities in there.
Bigger rides, okay.
Yeah, because they have bigger stuff, but, we're landlocked down there. And so this was our first year. We wanted to see how it went. We wanted to see how it was received, and we're excited. We're already planning the next year.
Well, as far as the downtown business owners, I mean, I'm sure they were concerned about
absolutely
what was the impact would be on their business. But it's from what you described, it sounds like they were on board if you could answer the questions, and apparently you did.
Yeah,
I would think they would help their businesses.
Well, that's what we're working on right now is doing that after action survey and saying, hey, how did your business do that week? What were the limitations? What were the concerns? Do you think you did better this year versus this week last year? And, what's the economic impact of having this here? Like, was it successful for us to bring all these people into this footprint?
I would think, a good day would be go have a pizza at Moon Tower and do the rides, or vice versa. Same with, all the other restaurants in the downtown area. Babes and whatnot, I'm sure. I had to think they saw some uptick in their business. Now, maybe Memorial Day weekend's always a good weekend for them.
Often,
But it's still, I think it just added a lot. And then you drive by at night, particularly, and the lights are on, the kids are running around. It reminded me of when I was a kid because, back when I was younger, we'd had these traveling carnivals and pop up at the grocery store parking lot or whatever.
Yeah.
And, we'd ride the rides and such. And the only one I ever remember now, I think they do in that mall on Seminary South.
Okay.
I've seen there. I forget what they call it, LeGrand Mall or something. It used to be Seminary South Mall.
Yep.
Town View or something like
LeGrand
that.
Plaza.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's the only one I can remember in the last few years.
Yeah.
And so now you're stuck. Got to do it again.
Yeah.
What were some of the biggest obstacles to it? Was it the space issue?
I think it was density. Yeah, it's very dense down there. There's a lot of construction also occurring. And so, one of the things that, we all are working on everything in all directions at all times. And so, we're in the middle of walking the site one day and we realize they're about to tear up the parking lot on the west end of City Hall. And we're like, wait, what? We're putting a Ferris wheel there. Yeah. And they were like, no, you're not, And so it was working through all of those logistics, but we had been told that there would be a lot of apprehension from people being able to access things. And so that was really the thing is our footprint shifted probably 10 times before you saw what you saw that week. And that was because we were trying to, accommodate people, but also like create flow. Cause internally we're like, if I'm coming to this event, it needs to make sense. No matter what end I come in from, I need to know how to get where I'm going and it needs to flow. I don't want to miss sections of it. And so it was blending those two together that took a lot of time and a lot of conversations and a lot of willing participation.
Well, I was talking about with Sabrina on a much, much smaller basis when I was putting on the homecoming parade. It's like all these little details, but all the kids saw was the parade and the candy, and so I'm sure you were fretting all these little details, but for what we saw, it looked great, and, because what I saw was a lot of community involvement, a lot of kids, laughing and giggling like they do when they're running around, going on rides and eating all that sugar and whatnot. So what I saw was a tremendously successful event. And now that you've done it once, you may know a few shortcuts or where the kinks are and whatever else. And
you could do an event 100 times, and every year you'd be like, you know what? Why did we do that again? Or we should change this. So it's always going to evolve.
Well, plus once the construction's downtown, Old Town is passed, it'll be a little bit easier.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because having 3 buildings being erected in the middle of our site was interesting.
Well,
even week of.
Yes, and the thing about it also is that you probably had a lot of people from outside of Burleson coming in, not just Crowley people, but Alvarado and Cleburne and I don't know, maybe Keene. I don't know if they do such things down in Party Town, Keene, but they didn't come Saturday. So,
oh yeah.
But anyway, but I'm just saying that we probably further cemented that we are, the central spot more or less, maybe Johnson County, maybe not geographically, but for what's going on business-wise and whatever else.
Yeah.
What else is coming on this summer?
We've got Hot Sounds of Summer. That's going all through June. We've got Juneteenth coming in July. It's National Parks and Recreation Month. And so we get more small scale and into the community in that month. So we pop up at different parks doing different small events. We try to keep some of it secret because we want to make it fun. Aquatics they're doing a cardboard boat regatta. So I don't know if you know what that is, but you make a boat out of cardboard and tape. And that's all you can do. And you got to get across the pool. We'll do some stuff at the dog park. We'll do some stuff with athletics. We do a big day at the end of the month. It's like a family field day. And so we make Parks and Rec Month much more about the family and the community, and we try to hit it from all different ages. We do some stuff out at the farm as well, and so that's kind of our gig this month. This year, it's Where Community Grows. That's our theme for the month, and so that will be everything that you'll see. We're going to do a different type of thing out at the farm where we teach how things grow, but also we just have a lot of fun.
Well, that Russell Art Farm is also a real asset to this community. There's a lot of things going on there. And I know that it's open to the public, even if they're not having an event, and that's not a bad place to go and scale down a little bit,
Yeah.
because it's very peaceful out there.
It's very peaceful. And if you just want to go hang out with some free range chickens and look at cows in a pond, it's wonderful. But also, they put on a ton of programs. For some reason, canning has become the wave and the trend of the future. And so
I don't doubt it with the grocery store prices.
Yeah, Mary Ann out there is teaching a different type of canning every month, and they have the community garden out there. And then, of course, the Bourne family, they do a ton of art. They do a red chair lecture series. They've got the wood sculptures. It's kind of our hidden gem. You
have a question from Sherry Scott. Is there going to be a float in the parade for parks?
Miss Scott, we host it, so we typically don't put stuff in. Our staff is working a lot of times at the events, and so we don't, but I can pose that challenge to staff if they would like to do it.
When is the 4th of July parade?
It is the Saturday before, I believe. Yes.
Okay, and what that date would be? Oh gosh,
it's
like the second or something.
First or second, I think.
Yeah, but it's the Saturday prior. It's not on the 4th itself. That's all. That's been around. One of the things that's been around a long, long time.
And we don't do the actual parade. We do the fireworks and the event out at Chisenhall.
Well, you're lucky because that's one of the biggest things I had to do for student council is put that parade on, and people took the homecoming parade pretty dang seriously. What do you mean I'm going to be over here? I need to be in the front. Okay, fine, and that kind of stuff. And but other than that, it's like one of those things, like 2 hours of hell putting it together, and then when they go out the back gate at what used to be the high school, it worked great.
Yeah, it's just done.
Yeah, now it's done. Yeah. You just go and turn right. And that kind of, But but the parade is a big deal, and the Christmas parade's a big deal.
Yep.
And now. But you say you're not putting on the parade. Who puts it on? Is it like
it's one of the civic organizations.
Right.
Don't let me misquote it. It's Rotary or it's someone else. If I misspoke that, I apologize in advance. But yeah, it's not the city that puts on the parade itself. We do the event for the 4th.
I've done that for years with my kids when they were smaller.
Yeah, and this year will be it will be different. So if people aren't following our social media, they need to, because Chisenhall will be under construction. We're expanding that parking lot, and so just the flow will be a little different this year. So if people are going to go enjoy that, just follow our stuff so they can see kind of how circulation's going to go.
Okay, so they need to check out your website then.
Well, Facebook is probably Facebook is a little smoother. It's more up to date. We post that frequently, so as things change and adapt, our social media is definitely the best way to find out what's going on.
Well, they tell me that Facebook is for old coots like me these days.
We have a TikTok and an Instagram too. So
well, I barely learned. Taylor always makes fun of me. So which is the button I turn on and that kind of stuff.
I don't make fun of you.
Please, you do. I hear you over there snickering. But anyway, these little miniature events, that still takes a lot of planning. I think a lot of people, when they think of Parks and Rec, they think about the parks, but you do all the other things you do. You also run the sports leagues, right?
Well, BISA runs soccer, BYA runs the youth, we run adult leagues,
right,
and then we do camps and stuff like that. Yeah, so we're doing that too. We're doing track right now. So last year we had like 50 kiddos in track. This year we're at 108 at last count. Like running track in the summer.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy. And so our leagues have really taken off in the last year, and they had died down a little bit, whether COVID related or just lack of interest. And they've really resurged in the last year.
How many basketball leagues in the winter? Do you have volleyball league?
We do. We have basketball, we have volleyball, we have flag football, softball.
Yeah, I see. I remember playing all those softball leagues. So, and all that. And I thought it was great, I liked the location and whatever else. And I was just very impressed with just how forward thinking, though, y'all have been about a lot of these things. It's like, okay, because some communities, when I say, well, we got a softball league, we got a basketball league, and then that's all. That's all we need to worry about or whatever. But it seems like there's something for just about everybody.
That's the goal.
And something, particularly in athletics or whatnot, to keep active. You also handle the golf course, right? Now, that's a nice golf course.
It's beautiful. James does a wonderful job.
I've had several people. I used to golf more than I do now. It's an expensive habit these days. But I had friends come in, and they said their municipal course was nothing like this. It was a pasture, and the only time they had water traps is when it rained or whatever else. Bill Janish here says, sand volleyball courts, are they in the works anywhere?
No one has specifically requested that type of court, but one of the things that we'll be presenting as part of our CIP next year is to redo Meadowcrest, and we think that's a great place for some type of court. I think we've had more requests for pickleball.
Yeah, I bet that's true.
Yeah, pickleball is hopping. And so that has been kind of what we're going to do. But when we do the public engagement, we'll ask what type of court the community wants. And if they want volleyball, we'll do volleyball. If they want pickleball, we'll do pickleball.
Well, I think you're talking about two different audiences there, though. Pickleball is like supposed to be less stress tennis or something like that. I've seen,
I say table tennis on a tennis court.
Right. Yeah, it's for older people that, don't want to run too much. It's sand volleyball, that's for the young crowd. So you got to hit all the marks there, don't you? Kids,
we do,
older,
and
whatever.
we have a lack of inventory in sports courts. We've got Warren Park. It's got all our courts.
Yeah.
End of sentence. That's it.
And if they're booked or they're taken,
and so we know that we have a deficit there, so we're working on that one.
So a couple more basketball courts would be great, and or racquetball and that kind of stuff.
That'd be fun.
I know we're getting all ambitious here, but it sounds like y'all are pretty ambitious, which is a good thing.
We are.
Yeah. Well, and as far as the community support, the council support, it seems like y'all get a pretty good amount of that. I mean, the money got to come from somewhere, and I bet it seems like the people of our community are willing and wanting these kind of things.
Well, and we operate off of a 4B sales tax, so we have a dedicated sales tax that pays for the debt and pays for the subsidy for the brick and the farm and golf. That's actually what we're in the smack dab in the middle of is budget season right now.
Oh,
and so
yeah.
Lots of fun. So much fun.
Is the budget looking okay though?
Yeah, it's looking okay.
Okay,
it's well-rounded and it's diverse. But yeah, we're fortunate because we have that half-cent sales tax that we're not competing with PD and fire for general fund dollars or anything like that. We say, okay, this is our capacity. What can we do within that capacity?
So you don't get any money outside of that dedicated fund?
We have general fund dollars for like right-of-way maintenance, and some of our parks stuff is all through general fund. But a very hefty portion of even like my salary is all through that 4B sales tax.
How about like state and national grants of any kind? Does that exist?
They do exist. Texas Parks and Wildlife has them. Of course, there's all like federal and Army Corps of Engineers. That there are options for some of those. We've applied for that for the Village Creek Trail expansion through COG. That's the
Council of Governments. Yeah.
Council of Governments. So they do a Safe Routes to School, and they do a transportation alternative grant. And so that 10-mile loop corridor, Public Works actually does all of that stuff. But they applied for our trail system for that. So a lot of those are matching. It still means we got to pony up some money, but we don't have to pony up all of it.
But as far as oversight and whatnot, you have a Parks and Rec board, right? What do they do for you?
So before anything goes to council, we scrub it through our parks board because we want to make sure that our voice is properly done. So we want to say, all right, board, you're a diverse group of citizens with different wants and needs. You're listening to different people in the community. These are the projects that we have coming up, or this is what we want to award. And the board says, we like this, we don't like this. We want to change that. And so we go back as staff before it ever gets to council. And then when we take it to council, we say, this board has seen this, they reviewed it, they've given us feedback. We include that feedback when we present it to council. But they also, they're advocates for us in the community. They're out at all of our ribbon cuttings, at many of our events. They're able to get voices that we don't get to hear a lot of times as staff. And so it's very helpful to have that board. They're not an authorizing body, they're a recommendation body. And so we take everything through them, and we really value the input that they give us because it helps us guide our vision. Well,
I know Victoria is very, very big on parks. Every time she comes on the show, we talk about it, and I'm sure we will. She'll be on the show on the 20th of this month.
Okay.
I'm sure there'll be a large part of the conversation because she really is on board with that. Who is the chair of that Parks and Rec right now?
Matt Quinn is the chair. Sherry Scott's the vice chair.
But Sherry, that's why I guess she's listening in. Okay.
Yeah.
But Sherry and Larry are watching the show, but I don't want to put pressure on you.
No.
No. But they're great people, and I know that Sherry's very big on the parks. And we've had that conversation before. As far as the fall, I know you're already probably planning the fall. I'd imagine anything around Labor Day.
We don't typically do stuff where people go to the lake. So if it's a weekend where people are getting out of town, we try not to like take that away because our attendance tends to be lower, and it's transition for us out of our summer programming into our fall.
And you need a break, right?
We lose a lot of our staff because they're college kiddos and they're high school kiddos. And so, when we lose them, then we're onboarding that fall staff. And so it's kind of a transition. We end summer camp, we start closing down the pool, we start, doing all that kind of stuff. And so then we kind of have a whole new group that comes in for fall. So that Labor Day weekend is transition for us a lot of time.
I remember taking my kids for swimming lessons at the pool. Do you still do that?
We do. Sigma Swim, we contracted out. Sigma Swim does a phenomenal job. And so they lead all of that charge for us.
So some of these things, y'all provide the facility, but the service is contracted out, it sounds like.
Yeah. That
like
one's not necessarily
the kids' athletic leagues, like you mentioned before. I mean, it's not, you don't have to run the teams and make the schedule and all that other stuff, but you do provide the facility. Y'all do the upkeep on the fields, right? And all
we
that.
do the upkeep on the fields. At Chisenhall, at Bissa, it's kind of a hybrid model for the soccer fields, but what it allows us to do is expand our capacity. And so, if you have these associations running the actual leagues and the day-to-day operations of it, we're able to focus on maintaining the complex, and then we fill in the gaps. Per se. So if there's a sport not being offered that the community is requesting, or there's something like that, like, we have Buddy Ball, that's a third party.
I remember Buddy Ball. I had several students involved in that over time, and I thought that was one of the best things. If you're not familiar with what Buddy Ball is, it's helping disabled people, kids play in sports. It's modified, of course, but it's still there. I thought that was one of the best things that we did.
It's wonderful.
And
it really
these young people
is. Yeah. And it takes people with the right heart and the right passion to put that together. And so, that's already there and it's created. And so we don't try to duplicate services. If it's out there and someone's killing it, we don't need to do it. And so unless there's just so much demand that we need to step in, we really we love giving that back. Sigma Swim does a great job with swim, and BYA and BISA do a great job with their associations. And so we don't need to offer that service, but we have the space and we have the fields, and we're able to maintain them because we have expert staff that know how to do it. And so we take care of it, and the community reaps the reward.
Yes, we do. And even though I'm just right outside the city limits, I definitely reap the rewards. I have to pay a little extra if I will go to the brick, but I think that's only fair. I mean, since I'm outside the taxing jurisdiction, I have no complaint about that. But it really, you have to have been here. How long have you lived in Burleson?
Almost 3 years.
Right. You'd have to have been here a while to notice the difference. I mean, when you came in, we had the brick and all this other stuff, but that there used to be a baseball field there, and it was, I didn't get all worked up about it because I was, my son's playing and whatnot. I didn't expect it to be like the Globe Life field, but Chisenhall is so much nicer.
Yeah.
And much more scenic, I guess, much more appealing to the eye. And I could see that with the softball fields coming too. But it just for us old timers, it's like, wow, what a change. And I think the Parks and Rec have been right at the very edge of that change.
Yeah.
I mean, rather than just having, like I said, Warren Park with like a rusty old merry-go-round and some swings that you probably have to have a tetanus shot after you ride on them and all that other stuff. I mean, it's got some high-quality stuff now, and also much safer. I could say that.
Yeah. We inspect our playgrounds.
Well, I'm sure. Is that a big part of the job? I guess is not just the maintenance, but you have to probably check the equipment out on a routine basis.
Weekly, yeah. Thursday and Friday, we're checking playgrounds.
Is it really? Is it that often? You just go by and
well, we have a lot. We have 18 playgrounds right now, and so checking every nut and bolt and cracking a slide and swing belt, and the trash receptacles are taken out every day. The bathrooms are cleaned every day, and I think it's a subtle nuance that you don't notice unless it's wrong.
Yes,
but
exactly.
You notice very quickly if we're not doing it, but you'll never notice if we're doing it right because it's always clean, or the trash is always taken out, or the playground always looks good. And so we always consider no news as good news in that world, because we're like, well, things are going well if we're not getting feedback that the bathrooms are dirty or that there's graffiti. We have internal metrics. If there's graffiti happens. 24 hours. We want it gone. We want you to never know it was there, or at least minimal. And we have 100% success rate right now, so don't take that as a challenge.
How many people work for y'all? It sounds like you had a whole army there.
It's not. It's about 20 guys for our entire system. We got 7 more out at Chisenhall that do Chisenhall and Bailey Lake. So about 30 and some seasonals that do everything.
It's permanent land. Grounds crew and all this other business.
And then we also, we do the tier 1 mowing on all the right of way. We manage those contracts as well for mowing and landscape and litter abatement. So yeah, we're out there doing some stuff behind the scenes.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Because I've always noticed that I've been in the brick several times. I've been in, these other facilities, and I don't see trash. I don't see a lot of junk. When we did not have these things, I take my kids into Fort Worth and go to their park sometimes, and no, we're not going to go to the bathroom in there. We're gonna go to the closest McDonald's and use theirs or something like that.
Yeah.
But now we don't have to do that, and that's what I think is great in the last few years. Just we don't have to leave town to have the kind of life we want to have. With the restaurants, with the shopping, with this community involvement, and I think y'all are a major, major piece of that, and we appreciate it because it makes, particularly as somebody who, as a parent, had kids in the summertime, you need to do something with them. So,
absolutely.
You can't just let them lie around the house. So,
Yeah.
But that was always a great thing. But what would you like to see happen next? I mean, what's your if you could say, here's a check, fill in the blank, what would you like to see next?
I think Shannon Creek is probably my personal one. It's just because it's something that we really aren't offering right now. We may have small elements of everything else, but having a natural space, Bailey Lake is absolutely stunning, but it's more activated, and it's connected to activated because of the disc golf course and the trail and the mountain bike trails and the softball complex. And so Shannon Creek, I think once that's done, it's something that I think the community is going to be really proud of.
It's going to have, but it's not going to be like a park in the sense like there's going to be a swings and playground. It's going to be like a natural park, right?
Yeah. So you're going to have logs and dry creek beds and like a bird's nest lookout window and fun stuff like that. There'll be a fishing pier and a boardwalk. It's a different space, but I also think kind of going back to the sports court conversations, we just have a lot of like small deficiencies that seem like low hanging fruit. Like, gosh, let's just get these out of the way. But we had such a deficit that it's taken us a minute to get to even where we're at.
You don't mean financial deficit, just to be clear. You mean deficit?
No, I just mean like we were lacking something in our system. So we were lacking inventory essentially. We had Just Warren Park as our place for people to play basketball or tennis or pickleball, and or they come to the brick and they come inside. We've got 2 courts. Well, we're at the size now that means you might wait for a court for hours, and so trying to make sure that we're spreading our system with some equity, and we're able to offer that throughout the system. Adding the dog park. An odd one is expanding the cemetery, so you're able to get that done.
You handled the public cemetery. I did not know that.
Yeah, and so we ribbon cut that. Gosh, a week or 2 ago now, 2 weeks ago, and so it's one of those things where you're like, what's the next thing that we need to do? And for me, the balance is always the fun part of it is like, what are we doing in our current system to take care of it, and then what's the next thing that we need to jump on? And for us, it's Shannon Creek, it's the community park, and then I think something that's really cool that I love working with Alex on, and just as a citywide vision, is blending that economic impact. So the plaza is a prime example. Economic development manage that project, but we're the ones who use it all the time. And so, we're grateful to them for creating those spaces for us that, we get to come in and inherit and program the snot out of. And so, we love that because they call it the community living room, and that's because that's what it is.
It is.
It's a gathering space. I call it placemaking. It just means we're making a place that people can come and gather at, and we need to have different types of that throughout the system. And so we've started that, but we have a long way to go before I feel like we're really killing it.
Well, you mentioned something that did spark my thinking. You mentioned the basketball courts at the brick are constantly in use. Any plans of expanding the brick?
Well, there's a national metric, and there are no current plans, so don't let me misspeak, but, one recreation center can handle about 50,000 residents before it starts feeling like you know, like you don't really have any breathing room, or you're trying to figure that out. And so we're right there right now. We're managing. I think our membership and our day use is good right now. It's healthy. But I can see in the next 5 years us starting to change that conversation a little bit and say, you know, do we expand at our current site, or as we build a community park, or we build out towards, you know, Chisholm Trail, do we need to put something on that end of town to serve that portion of the community that's growing in that area? That's TBD, but that will be a need in the future as we get bigger.
I can't see how you can avoid it, frankly, with the amount of growth that we're looking at. I've seen projections at Burleson when it finally is built out. Even at current city limits, it's going to be well over 100 to 150,000 people. And one place will just probably not going to be enough. I mean, but I could see us within the next half decade or so having to expand on all of that. And, you know, and it's necessary as we grow and the taxes grow. I guess you're a big fan of shopping locally if you get your revenue from it.
Yeah,
so please,
exactly.
You know, shop.
I pay my own paycheck.
Well, I felt the same way because as a school teacher, I shopped locally because they were paying my salary too. I absolutely did, and that's but it is kind of funny. We're getting close to the end, so just.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know it goes by real fast, doesn't it? Well, when you're enthusiastic as you are, it's you know, it's obvious that you enjoy talking about this.
I do.
It gets you up in the morning. Yeah. That's a good thing. That we want that in our people that serve us in the community like you do, because we don't, I have to get up today. No, we want people that, yes, we get to go and make another park, you know.
Yeah.
All right, here you got about 6 square feet. Let's put a swing on it, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, no, I think that's a good thing. All that space that just would go to weeds and waste, you know, makes our community look a lot nicer. Yeah. Looks like decent people live here, dadgummit. So anyway, but tell us in the last few minutes what you would like the listeners, you know, most of the listeners access the show at their convenience later, YouTube and Spotify, et cetera, you know, when they get around to it. So what would you want them to know?
I think that we just want them to know that they have a voice in all that we do. That process has changed significantly over the past few years, but you know, it's really easy for me to walk into a space and have a vision really quickly and say, I think that this would be a beautiful thing if we did this here or that here. But in Burleson, we do it different. You know, I can say that all I want, but I don't do it until I get it blessed by the community. And so that's something that's very, very unique to Burleson, because it's a lot quicker for me to go into a space and just get it built, right? But we spend months saying, what do you guys want here? Well, I'll walk any space with you. David Lopez, our deputy director who's over the parks division, he'll walk the space with you and say, what do you love about it? What do you hate about it? You know, if we have a 311 system now, and so if you were to say like, hey man, your trees are growing into my backyard, like, we take care of that, and we care, and we have the team in place and the right people in the right seats right now that if you want to see it, let us know. It's something that we're doing next year is updating our master plan, because we kind of crushed the 2019 one, and we've got about 85% of the objectives in that completed. And so now we're like, well, we need a new one now. So we can do that. But we're working on getting accredited. But the bigger thing is, like, you have an entire department that bleeds and loves this community, and I hope it shows.
Well, it's obvious. I mean, just not just in you, but the way the things are taken care of. You know, you could see the motivation of the people by the way things are taken care of, and the morale of the group. Yeah. If you had poor morale or poor motivation, our parks would be overridden with junk and weeds, and they're not, and their equipment's safe. And so that's a testimony to you and your department about how you have the high spirits and we appreciate that.
Yeah, it's funny because you wouldn't think, like, in municipal government, because we're all stuffy, right? That we would say, like, what are your core values? And like for us, like, service, it sounds very cliche, but also like love. Like, I'm like, I want every person that walks into the Brick to feel like they're walking into their own house with their grandma. And they're like, hey, how you doing? You know, we want people to feel seen. We want them to feel heard. And we want them to feel like we care about them and we love what our community as much as they do. And so if that's the takeaway, that's the goal. I don't know that we always get it right. We're human, and we wake up sometimes on the wrong side of the bed. But the goal is to be humble, to be honest, and to just make sure people know how much the team that we have right now loves this community. And so we hope that they see that in our programming and in our parks.
They absolutely do. I mean, you could tell because of the way they're maintained, the way the vision that goes behind them, the fact that you're trying to hit all the age groups and all the locations within town with these little micro parks. You know, that I know it sounds silly, but that to me is one of the most impressive things, because a lot of communities would just let that go to by waste. Say, hey, here we have a quarter of an acre or half an acre that the kids in the community could play on, and you'll provide a pretty safe or very safe environment for that. And I appreciate that very much. It's I think this is one of the best things the city does. And like I said, Victoria on in about 2 weeks, and she just gushes about y'all on the Parks and Rec. And it's like, please, you don't have to cry, Victoria.
Yeah, please don't cry. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming. I know you're very busy, and we'll do this again in a few months when you're, because I'm sure all summer long you're just hopping from one thing to another.
We are, which is like the best thing.
It makes your day go by.
Most recreation people, we're ADHD, and so we love being able to hop from thing to thing. So.
All right. Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And make our community better. All right, and what is today? Thursday. Next week on Monday, I have Debbie Beeman from Promises Community, and then Jessica Valley Reams from Fitability on Tuesday, and then we have Liz Murphy's going to be here from Crazy 8 next Thursday. So we're going to have 3 nonprofits, and it's always a good thing to talk about.
Absolutely.
All right, so we'll see y'all later.
Thank you.